What's up everyone? Welcome back to another World of Warcraft Season of Discovery guide. I'm Severingo, and today we'll be going over how to PvP as a Druid in Phase 2. At the time of this recording, Druids have been hit by the nerf hammer, but despite what others are saying, I personally think that they're still doing very well, dealing incredible amounts of burst as feral and effective long-range damage with balance. To catch everyone up, Balance had taken one of the top spots recently for its ridiculously strong starsurge ability, oftentimes critting for over 1000 damage on a 6-second cooldown, costing 8 mana and having a chance on hit to stun the target for 3 seconds, all from around 35 yards away. With that being said, it was the talk of the town these last few days, and as of a couple days ago, Blizzard reduced the base damage of the ability by 30% while also fixing the spell power scaling to the ability, making it now hit for something closer to a Moonfire or Sunfire. However, they've also made the next Starfire cast hit for 66% additional damage, so even if people are up in arms about having to hardcast an ability when the Eclipse Rune's pushback prevention is bugged, I still am able to consistently get anywhere from 700 to over 1000 bronze coins in an STV event. So regardless of any of these changes, the goal is that this info will still all be relevant for the phase. Similar to my previous guides, I'll be covering optimal talent builds, potential gear and stat choices, the best runes to run, and overall strategy. Let's jump right into it. First up, we have the King of the Jungle, Feral Druid. Ferals in Phase 2 are incredibly solid, as long as you're playing around their strengths. And the added runes of this phase provide some very nice additional burst damage, as well as some survivability. With that being said, Powershifting is extremely mana intensive, cat form feels a bit squishy, which I'm not saying is a bad thing for the sake of game balance, and unsurprisingly, you're the most powerful when popping your big 3-minute rune cooldowns, but you can still be very effective without those big CDs. For talents, I'm running this build. It gives you all the nice offensive benefits, while also giving you 5 out of 5 in Furor for Powershifting. Feral Charge has many use cases, and Fairy Fire is very good both as an armor reduction, allowing you to hit harder, but also as a quick way to handicap enemy rogues and druids, so they can't get a re-stealth unless they get dispelled. As for runes, these are generally the ones you'll want to be using while swapping out a few pieces depending on the situation you're in, which I'll go into right now. Because PvP is very fast-paced and things can change on the fly, I like to utilize the add-on item rack to allow me to swap out gear pieces in order to use different runes for different scenarios, as well as swap them out when my bigger rune abilities are on cooldown. For instance, if I Feral Charge into a big pack of enemies as Bear and pop Survival Instincts in Berserk, once that's over and I have a 3-minute cooldown for both, I can focus more on being in cat form and swap my boot rune for King of the Jungle in order to utilize the offensive benefits. It's the same idea as swapping out your Insignia PvP trinket for another while it's on cooldown in order to maximize the benefits you're receiving from your gear. Additionally, you'll want to swap things out like Savage Roar for Skull Bash a lot because when everyone's so squishy at the moment and things die so quickly, spending a global cooldown on Savage Roar sometimes isn't realistic, and being able to interrupt enemy spellcasts will come in handy quite often. For gear, you're going to want to be running a mix of stamina for more health and overall survivability, strength/attack power to bolster the damage of your melee hits, and agility because druids gain crit chance and a small bit of armor, attack power, and dodge from it, and at this level, higher crit means more combo points due to the Blood Frenzy talent. I also highly recommend creating an account on 60upgrades.com and building out your character within it. This allows you to take a look at the best options of gear for any level. It is catered towards PvE, but knowing which stats you're looking for allows you to make decisions based off of the items that you find. For instance, the best in slot Rage Holders for this phase are from a quest in Fairless that I was able to get with a group of guildies, but they have no stamina, which, although you might squeeze a bit more damage out of them, you really don't want to be a glass cannon as a feral druid. But you could take a look at the other options on the list and see things like the Flint Rock Shoulders, which are BOE drops from Scarlet Monastery, or the Fleshhide Shoulders here with a whopping 15 stamina on them plus a bit of strength and agi. And if you want to know where to find them, just open a new tab and it'll take you to Wowhead, so these drop off of Glutton in RFD. The website also shows which enchants and item upgrades are available to you at your current level, so you can also tinker with all those choices. In terms of strategy, the Feral Druid is fun because you have the choice of playing a roguelike stealthy bursty class with cat form, or a tankier warrior type with Bear. Add to this the ability to heal yourself and move around quickly with things like Travel Form, Feline Swiftness, and Feral Charge, and you have a very dynamic class with a lot of tools at its disposal. Because druids now bring wild strikes, you can opt for a melee heavy comp, ideally with a healer, and then your choice of warriors, paladin, rogues, melee hunters, enhancement shaman, etc. But in STV, this can get a bit dicey with all the strong ranged classes. Add to that the lag that has been plaguing the event recently, and it can make for a less enjoyable experience. But with that being said, it can still be a very fun way to play and extremely effective. I typically get around 350 to 600 coins per STV event as feral, and then it's also my #1 choice for Battlegrounds. Speaking of which, let's hop into some so I can go over my typical thought process and ideal rotation when playing. Alrighty. So, I'm going to move this here. I have an ultra-wide monitor, so I'm just going to show you what you should be focused on when you pop in. There are other druids, but your goal is to just buff everybody. You can toss on Mark of the Wild and Thorns to them, because everything helps, both with getting dispels and also, or purged, I guess, from the enemy team. And also just doing that much more damage and having that much more health and so on and so forth. Once everyone's buffed up, you figure out where your team's going, where you want to go. As a druid, you excel both in team fights in the beginning because you can use Berserk and Survival of the Fittest to just jump in there and start mangling everything. Or you can kind of stealth cap similar to a rogue. Not as effectively, where you can't CC like 3 different people like you can as a rogue, but you can go with a rogue and be just as effective because you also help rogues a lot if there are other rogues around as enemies with things like Fairy Fire and just being tankier and bear. The add-on capping will have timers for things like when the game's going to start and who's going to win based off of estimates and guesstimations. I have Weakauras that show me the res timers for all of the different areas. And then I use BattleGroundEnemies so that I can see what type of comp my enemies have. So I'm going to swap. If we have 30 seconds, we can swap on this thing called the Barbaric Belt. I like using this at the start of a match because it gives you 30 rage when you hop into bear form. And that on top of Enrage and Furor, you're going to be in a much better place to just start mangling as much as possible rather than being rage starved and hoping to get some melee attacks to get some more rage. Make sure that my PvP insignia is equipped. So here we have a bunch of horde. We're going to pop into bear. We're going to pop in rage. Going to pop feral charge. And then just start blasting. I should put that on a... Anytime you see a rogue, just make sure that you toss a Fairy Fire on them so that they can't get away. And that's a pretty solid, successful blacksmith opener. Swap back my belt to something with a little bit more stamina. And then also swap my boots so that I can use King of the Jungle while in cat form. For your opener, generally you'll want to Pounce, Fairy Fire, Mangle, Tiger's Fury, Shred, and Power Shift if you need to. Then it's a matter of finishing them off either in bear form or with a Ferocious Bite. The nice thing about the capping add-on is that it gives you the estimate of who's going to win and when. So we kind of just secured that dub by capping stables. I like to jump into, you do a big amount of burst, and then you jump into bear form for the survivability. So I just get a little bit left. No, it ain't much, but we got 3 seconds left on Trollbane Hall. Get a quick little buff ski in, and then just gas it back to try to, can't interrupt this, but oh wow, that's perfect. So we just capped that, and now we might be able to do this. So you're going to want to try to interrupt it with a Moonfire or something, which we did, like a grounding up. But it wasn't close enough, or we put it up too late. And that just screwed them right there. This guy's gonna fear probably. people. You're gonna mangle. Tread, tread. And there you have it. Second in HKs, second in killing blows. Not too shabby. On the alliance side, I guess. Next up, you have the famous Star Chicken spec, Balance. Despite the nerf to starsurge, I still feel that Balance is very viable in PvP for Phase 2 and is my go-to for the STV event due to its strengths of putting out great damage at range. Yes, it's not totally broken after the 1000+ damage star surges were reeled in a bit, but as long as you're positioning well and utilizing everything the spec has to offer, I still think it can hang up there with the best of them, and is a boon to any PvP group or Battleground. For talents, I run this build, focused on giving as much damage and spellcasting speed reduction to your abilities as possible, because the goal is to be able to secure the most amount of kills in the least amount of time. With free Wraths from Fury of the Stormrage, Star Surge costing just 8 mana, and Innervate being a thing, I feel like this is the best setup for getting the highest amount of coins as long as you're positioned well with a good team. This build also gives you Nature's Grasp to help create distance from melee, Natural Shapeshifter to make things like going from Travel to Prowling Cat to Boomkin to No Form Healing back to Boomkin a bit easier on the mana bar, and Nature's Reach for an increased range of your damaging spells. To tie runes into all this, not much to play around with here. The only real option I would mention is there's also a world where you run Wild Growth instead of Sunfire because it's a very solid team-wide heal. The thing is, especially in the STV event, you want to have as many hard-hitting instant cast abilities as possible in order to snipe low-health players trying to turn in blood at the altar, so I personally prefer running Sunfire. Healing in Moonkin form takes you out of form, so if you're running Wild Growth and using it often, it might not even be worth speccing into Moonkin, but I'll let you decide based on your playstyle. As for gear, I'd use 60 upgrades again. You're looking for a mix of stamina, intellect, and spell power, and as a balanced druid, you can become very strong very quickly with very little expenditure of gold or much effort at all, because there are a lot of cheap crafted BOEs and items from the STV event, or rep rewards like Warsong Gulch, where the Ashenvale event got most people at least to Honored, so you can get these rings, and if you haven't, you still can do it for the weekly 1000 rep quest. When talking strategy, Boom Chicken really excels when you're cognizant of its weaknesses, so positioning is very important. There's a little bit of ramp up time with runes like Eclipse that take a little time to start pumping more damage, so I like to get the Star Surge out first to start the process, giving Wrath a higher chance to crit and additional damage to your Starfire ability. Then I'll get Sunfire and Moonfire on the target if they're high health, and then start casting a few Wraths for the Starfire cast time reduction, and then casting Starfire and going from there. For comp, in general, because Moon can excel from range and don't have much in their arsenal to peel away from melee, having a group composed of a healer and then primarily ranged classes will probably benefit you the most. Moon can also give party members 3% increased spell crit, which is always nice. Classes like Mage and Hunters are both strong and great at peeling. Shadow Priests do insane amounts of burst and sustain damage right now. Shaman have incredible burst and Purge is always strong. And Warlocks can definitely hold their own as well. Feel free to add another Moonkin if you so desire, and maybe have one run Wild Growth and the other one run Sunfire. This isn't to say other classes aren't good with balance. Rogues can fit in quite nicely, warriors are always good at peeling, so on and so forth. But strictly speaking, in STV, I've had the most success with a range stacked Spellcleave group plus heals. So, overall, both specs bring their own pros, cons, positives, negatives. As with every class in the game, it all comes down to preferred playstyle. You can do well in any aspect of PvP as either feral or balanced, so go out and give both a try and see which one speaks to you the most. I hope this was helpful, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Real-life responsibilities got in the way of getting this video out as quickly and as detailed as I would have liked, but I'm just doing my best to find a balance between getting content out regularly and being extremely detailed / putting a lot of time into an edit. I have a backlog of videos I'd like to make, like the Nomergon PvE guide, which is my next project, but I also want to level up alts and have my day-to-day responsibilities out in the real world, so please bear with me as I try to service everything as best I can. I truly am appreciative of every single person who tunes in to watch these, and it really has been a super fun project for me. If you want to support any further, please feel free to like the video, comment, or subscribe to the channel. I'll be putting out a community post about my first stream coming up soon. I'm super excited about that. If you want to give the stream a follow, it's my same name as YouTube, Severingo. Alright, that's it for me. I'll stop yappering. Hope to see you guys again soon. Hope you're having a lot of fun in Phase 2. Peace.